Hey everyone. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Health Made Simple show this week. As you're all jumping on, I'd love you to say hi in the chat. If you caught me last week, I was on holiday up north and filming in from the beautiful Coral Bay in Northwestern Australia, but today I'm back in Perth. So where are you guys from? Let me know in the chat and say hi while we wait for Dr. Bart to jump on. And I am going to go live on Facebook at the same time. So we got another cool show for you today. I think I learned more than you guys on these shows. We're going to dive into some signs and symptoms that your body might be sharing with you that maybe you're not listening to. So it's going to be cool. So I'm going to get us set up on Facebook while we're waiting and while you guys are all jumping on. So we are answering lots of questions tonight too. So make sure if you've got questions, you let us know, you post them. Some of you guys email in questions too. We love it when you email in questions, so feel free to do that. I've got, for those of you that already emailed in questions, I've got those questions ready. So we will answer those tonight for you as well. I'm just getting Facebook set up and ready here. And then we can make sure we're all working okay. Hey Patty, how are you? Good to see you. Okay, I think we are almost live on Facebook. Awesome. So yeah, as I said, if you do have questions as we go through, or you think of things that it triggers for you, let us know in the chat. Dr. Bart in the house.
Good evening and good morning to Karen.
Yes, another awesome show coming up here. We are just live on Facebook, so
awesome. And just for everyone, so this again, we're going to do like a it's Q&A. So as much as people want, bring out your questions. What we're going to talk about tonight is a really fun topic. It's intriguing, and I'll tell you why and how I've kind of gotten so much into the visual observation of human health. It's something that happened a really long time ago. But tonight, I'm going to give you some of the most common visual observations that we can have that tell us a lot about the human body. And what's really cool, Karen, is that the body tells us everything. The reality is that not only as doctors, but not even doctors, just as human beings, we've stopped listening. We've stopped looking for the clues and the feedback that the body's always given us. So probably like, man, had to have been 25 years ago. One of my great mentors, his name was Arnaud Bernier. He was a Frenchman. He was a doctor, chiropractor, one of the most talented guys I've ever known. He reminded me that the doctor of the past would be a family doctor, and he would know everything about the patient. So literally he might go door to door, depending on the community. And he'd show up with his little doctor's bags, all these things we remember. And I'll talk a little about doctor's bags tonight, things that we all have to have at home. Hopefully, just remind me with things that we have at home.
Doctor's bag, yeah.
And I remember him reminding us, many other practitioners like myself, he was teaching us, and he would share with us saying that the more we know, the more we can help. Nowadays that's like interpreted as like, let me see, all your paperwork, that kind of stuff. But he used to always talk about, but know thy patient. And the way that we know that patient is by looking at them, by observing them. So we would know their tone of voice. We would see and observe their posture. We would see the tone of their skin. We would know if the family went through hard times, like all of those things. Were they going through divorce? Was there stress in their life? And all of this would be put into this bucket of how to serve and how to help them. So tonight, I'm going to bring up a lot of these old things that have been around for clinicians forever. And a lot of us still use these as part of our evaluation. I think a lot of the people that will come in and see me, they realize that oftentimes I put the paperwork down so I can observe.
Yeah.
because the paperwork tells a story and it's needed as well. Just like lab work can be very, very valuable. And I'll talk about the blend with modern medicine now. So that's really where it came from, that getting back to, and he would say, Bart, get back to being the family doctor. So I've always it's always been almost like a very prideful thing to, know your patients and know what's going on. Tonight, I want to share them with you because listen, you might be a mom, a friend, or anything, or just observing yourself. And these things can be very powerful in order for us to just observe and listen to what the body's saying.
Yeah. And I think that's huge because as you said, we've kind of lost that. We've definitely lost that with a lot of the practitioners that we go on, and we've lost that within ourselves, in terms of some self-awareness around what's going on. So I'm excited to dive into some of these. Before we dive in, let me just, for those of you that haven't been on before, I just want to intro our host here, Dr. Bart, who has been a healthcare provider for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including chiropractic, acupuncture, kinesiology, nutrition and supplementation, and functional testing, all out of his clinic, Balance Health Studio in Seagrove Beach, Florida. He's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a virtual cutting-edge health program for entrepreneurs and executives wanting to take their health to the next level. So he has worked with celebrities and athletes all around the world. And so we are going to get some good insights into some things to look out for, and some, as you said, visual observations that we can do on ourselves to try and tell if there's some things going on. And I know when we talked a little bit before the show, as you say things, it always links back into maybe some other symptoms or some other things that I already know are going on. And it's amazing how then some of these visual observations just put the pieces together where you're like, yeah, okay, I need to pay attention to that. Or, hey, I need to maybe do something about that, right?
Yeah, it's almost like filling in this sentence where we say, what does blank mean? And now tonight we're going to fill in that blank. We're going to explain what that means and just fill in the blank. What does it mean if we have lost some of our eyebrows, or just whatever it may be, and we'll go into all these different things. So, Karen, we talked about some things earlier, so I'm gonna kind of pass it off to you. Just fire them away, and then I'll do the best I can to dig up get my brain working here, and just kind of explain these different things again. Because if we understand these things, we can literally just level up, quite frankly, but raise the bar for even the people around us. What do you got for me tonight?
Yeah, and as we're doing this, if you've got your own fill the blank, if you've noticed something in yourself or family members or whatever, you've got to fill in the blank. Hey, what does this mean when I see this? Type it in the chat or let us know on Facebook, and we'll add it to our list, because I've got some to get started with. So, okay. Let's start with your nails, because that's always one I kind of notice. So what does it mean if I've got different things on my nails? So let's start with ridged nails. You've got those little ridges on your nails.
Yeah, so nails a big category. I tell you what, nail health is really an indicator. We can tell so much clinically about a person's health with just their nails. So I'll go through a whole bunch of things because they're all different things. So I'll go through a bunch, and there's going to be some I miss, but there's a ton that we know about nails. So ridges first. So let's just say you take your finger and you kind of go back and forth, laterally across it like that, and you feel bump, 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 bump. If you ridges like that, it means we got a deficiency. Most likely that's going to be a B vitamin deficiency. So remember, those are the vertical, the nails are running long that way, and you're going here and you feel bump, bump, bump going back and forth here. Often that's a B12 deficiency, and it could mean that we have a thyroid condition going along with it. But now let's say you go, well, I only have one or two and they're white. Okay, so some people.
The whole nail is white, or the ridges are white?
Ridges, but they're not a whole bunch of them. It's not like a whole bumpy road, but there's one or two vertical lines and they're white.
Okay.
That is an iron deficiency.
Okay.
They all tell us different things here. Another just kind of neat one is, that we used to always call it a moon when we were young growing up.
Totally. Yeah, I know the moon. Yeah.
Technically, that's called your lunula, and it tells us a lot about your health. That, especially in traditional Chinese medicine, we look at the lunula to help determine a person's vitality. That kind of lets us know the strength and the integrity of it. Now, when you look at your hands, you should see a lunula in 8 out of 10 of your fingers. Okay, so listen, the whole thing tonight, so just everyone listening tonight. So in the event you go, oh, sugar, like I only have 4, I only have 5. I don't want you to panic. I just want you to make these observations, and then you can take action based on some things that I'm saying. So typically, if you see low lunula, often that this is an indicator that your immune system has been weakened, and that also you probably, it's correlated to your digestive system. I should have backed up and said this. The nails, they take 6 months to grow. That's pretty typical. Left hand grows faster than right. Well, I have no idea. Hands grow faster than feet. No idea. But those are the observations we have. About 6 months. So what you have going on with your nails right now, give us an indication of the past 6 months of your health. Like, what have you been doing with it? And the beauty is, by recognizing it, you can actually make some significant changes.
Yeah. That's amazing that you can tell so much, and hopefully you guys are like looking at your fingers there as well. Let us know if you've got any comments about your own nails. What about if they're so keep going. I was just gonna say, so some other things we were talking about, like what about spots?
Yeah, so spots, the white spots are typically caused by a zinc deficiency, but this is important to understand. They'll just show up. And it's usually zinc deficiency caused by an impact of stress. Like you've been overburdened with the level of stress. It really impacted your adrenal system. And remember all of that, and then it impacts the gut, and that all has an influence on how well you can absorb zinc. So when you have high stress, unfortunately, it's harder and harder because your stomach acid changes under stress. You don't absorb zinc well. And that's when you'll see the spots, like a white spot here and a white spot there.
Yeah. I feel like I might have seen those in the past, but I don't have any just now, which is good. But I love it that, though, I mean, really we can change these things. This is all information for our body, right? So that we can do things to be able to improve it. So what about brittle and cracked? Yeah. That's another one, like where they get,
brittle and cracked again go the kind of two things here. One, it's often a folate deficiency. Think of vitamin B's again. There's a theme when it comes to nails, and it's vitamin B. Okay. So the good is you can have all this different things, and there's 2 things that it's going to boil down to: your B vitamins and mineral deficiencies. The other part, this is one little difference here, is that if they're really brittle and they don't have some strength and they can't, like, they won't bend for you, they'll break and they'll get a little brittle for you. That's usually a deficiency in your essential fatty acids. And that's what we call fish oils. That's why, another reason why, I recommend cod liver across the board to everyone. Those essential fatty acids and the ability to absorb them, very, very important that we have that on a regular basis.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And another one we were talking about was flaring.
Yeah, clubbed or flaring. So imagine that your nail itself flares up.
Yeah.
So when we see that flaring up, typically that's an indication that you got some stuff going on with the liver. And so you'll see it. And again, the beauty of all of this, they're changeable. But usually that's an indication there's some liver enzymes are off, the liver's working a little harder. Often see it with fatty liver disease. So again, 6 months to grow is the nails. So if you change and then, you make some significant changes, get more B vitamins, get better absorbing minerals, all of those things will make a change in your nails. The other thing about it, we forget sometimes, Karen, is that the nail itself is a protein. So we have to have good digestive systems so we can absorb things like essential fatty acids and things like essential amino acids, because it needs those building blocks to be able to make healthy nails. So there's always that gut, that gut connection to really just about everything. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, and this is fingernails, toenails, all nails, right?
Yeah, correct. All of them go. And there's different funguses and stuff like that I think are some of the obvious, but even a fungus itself, that's usually like a mineral issue there, specifically with some of the brittle, well, again, B vitamins would be just across the board, but it has to be a whole food B vitamin, things we get B1 and thiamine and folate in. So not necessarily just like a B12, but something that has all the B12, all of the B vitamins. So interestingly enough, it's if we have a gut deficiency or high stress, we often will be depleted in B vitamins. Sometimes I'll see this correlation. I didn't see this until the last couple of years of people that have gone like all in on keto, but are not providing supplemental B vitamins, because your vitamins under the fasting, you're putting your body under stress, and your B vitamins, one of the first vitamins that you use up in fasting. So we become deficient. So that's one of those ones that I would say, if you guys are, steady Freddy when it comes to intermittent fasting and you're doing keto and all that good stuff, that making sure you're getting a regular, good source of B vitamins, just smart strategy there.
And we've got one that you recommend, a B vitamin.
I use one that was interesting enough. If you were to look at the label, one of the first ingredients is liver.
Okay.
B
Wow.
vitamin, Cataplex B. I use a gluten-free formula, but B vitamins, the best source of B vitamins in the world is liver. So, minerals, if you eat things like organ meats, you can really do really good for your nails.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. We've got a couple more now questions here. One is, how about when the nail lifts from the nail bed?
Yeah, that's a collagen issue. So again, that is going to go back to stomachs.
Okay.
You guys, I've talked a little bit about this last week, where one of the hardest things for us to do is have good collagen. We're trying to keep things together here, and that's what that collagen does for us. So if it's lifting up and it's not binding, that means we're having a hard time getting good, collagen. It could show up in other areas of your body. You could see a little bit more wrinkling in the skin. You can see just the skin not healing as fast, but really, Karen, that goes back to your gut. So anyone who just heard that, we got to get your pH in your gut better, meaning that you've got to get a lower pH. So when you do eat, chicken, egg, fish, and meats, that you can pull that collagen out and digest it, make it absorbable. So it's gut health. You can use some collagen, but really the ability to absorb it will strengthen that up.
And I love that we keep talking about that, really, because I think, often we want to add more things or take supplements, but if we can't absorb the food that we're eating or the supplements that we're taking, then we're still going to have the same issues, right? And then we really have to go back again and look at, if we have got some gut issues that is impacting our absorption, then that's something we need to have a look at as well.
And I think, probably everyone, that's watching here tonight or on live on Facebook, at the end of the day, you think, man, I've beat my gut up over the years, so everyone would benefit from some like just regular source of getting their bitters, ginger and garlic and like all those types of things, or you supplement. That's what I usually will do, some type of, digestive enzyme, just to make sure the gut has the shot at, absorbing all, or breaking down and absorbing all the good food we're putting into it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Roxanne also says, can you tell me what weak, thin, and splitting nails mean? That's kind of similar to the brittle, is it?
That's the brittle family, and that's your folate, okay? And then, so think of green leafy vegetables, and if there, Roxanne, think of digestion and ability to break those down. So think green leafy vegetables is the best place for our folate, but also the essential fatty acids. That's cod liver oil, that's tuna omega oil. My favorite is cod liver because you get the natural vitamin E and D in there. And you're going to want to get at least 1,000 milligrams a day. This is going to show up later, Karen, when we talked about some of the stuff with our feet.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And since we're also talking about nails, let's just touch quickly on nail polish, because we were talking about this before, and it's something a lot of people use a lot. So let's quickly have a quick chat about nail polish, because like we were saying, unfortunately, it's one of the more toxic things you can put on your body.
Yeah, you're right. So of course I got to be the bearer of bad news, right? So so listen, ladies, I think every one of you know this intuitively. So your nails are actually on some level more porous than your skin is. So what you put on your nails and then close them up goes directly into the body. It's going directly into the bloodstream, down into the liver. So the truth is, and I don't know that there's a healthy source out there. I don't use, nail polish and that kind of stuff yet. You got to let them breathe. That is you're putting whatever you're putting on there. Most nail polish, one of the main ingredients is formaldehyde. Not good. Yeah. So just pay attention. Maybe there's organic ones out there or more natural ones. I don't know that. I guess that's something we can look into, but just in general, you need to clean them off and give them an opportunity to breathe and get an opportunity to get them healthy.
Yeah. as you said, bad news, but better to know, right? Than unknowingly put this stuff into our bodies. It's good to be able to make an informed decision, and then even if you do want to use it at certain times, you're not using it as much. Maybe it's not something that you use every day. Cool. All right. So I think that's all the questions we've got on nails. I mean, we've only talked about this. It's just it's a small part, but it's giving us so much information already, right? Yeah. Okay.
What else?
Yeah. Next one is weight gain. So let's talk about the areas that people gain weight, because people gain weight in different areas. So and people are always kind of asking, hey, what does it mean if I gain weight in this area or this area? So let's go through areas that we gain weight. So let's start with the hips. Okay.
So this is great, and I think this will really help anyone who has put on some extra weight and they're kind of wondering, what does this weight mean? And as a clinician, often where the body is holding on to things gives us great insight. So I'll just kind of roll through it here. So let's just talk about like a belly weight, okay? Just like belly weight around the hips, the waist, but predominantly like your belly is getting bigger, and it might be coming from unknown areas. And this is often what we considered almost adrenal weight. I'll explain that. And I'm going to break this down into really like 3 or 4 different categories that really help give us some insight, and not only where it's coming from, but what to do about it. So when we have stress, you produce a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone that will signal the liver to release sugar. So even if you haven't eaten anything under stress, your body will produce and release sugar, which means that you're going to have insulin. So once the blood sugar goes up, insulin's released, and then you store it. That stress weight goes right around the waist, really the belly and into the hips, but it's typically in the belly area. Now here, the challenge here is this, is that often just changing your diet will not do a darn thing. And so there's many people out there that are eating good, but they are gaining weight or they cannot get rid of that weight. So if you have that weight around the belly, you've got a really good diet. Recognize that, listen, it is probably more stress induced than it is diet induced. Now, with that being said, couple things here. One, you definitely want to move yourself more toward like a really broad-based vegetable diet. I'm not saying you got to go vegetarian or anything, but in this scenario, you need a lot of vegetables. One of the reasons is we want to get a lot of cruciferous vegetables, so we can start to clear out the excess hormones that are built up in the liver and the gallbladder. Really, really important. So, and listen, if that's you, that's probably a scenario that we've talked about it before in the show. In the event that you've got the belly weight, you've got some fatigue, some other symptoms that'll show up here is typically that weight will be accompanied with a little anxiousness, possibly depression. Fatigue, of course, goes with this, but you're just trying to push. You're just trying to grind it away. Stress is always there. You want to lean away from the harder foods to break down. So you want to get into the vegetables and help cleanse out some of those excess hormones, like the estrogen that builds up in the body, because that's often what's going on in there. Possibly get your adrenals tested. It's an at-home saliva test. That is an important one, because listen, if you can run around the world literally and have a perfect diet, but if your adrenals are exhausted or they're overactive, both of those scenarios, you're not going to lose any weight. So really, and then the home remedy for those, this is where, and I think we joked about this last time, you can sleep off weight. Yeah. This is the individual who can actually lose weight because they're sleeping more. That is when we metabolize. So if you got it around the belly and you've been under stress the last several months, then that's you. You're an adrenal person that you want to tend to those adrenals. Yeah, super interesting. Okay, so that's the lower abdomen. What about if you've got more of like a pot belly? Okay, totally different. So when think pot belly, I want you to think the classic dude who can sit there and almost put a beer on his belly. Okay. Yeah. Funny, but at the same time, it's common. Yeah. I see the skinny legs in the pot belly. That's a liver issue. That's fatty liver. Yeah. So it doesn't mean you have to be able to balance a beer on your belly, but the belly protrudes and it's like a belly thing. It's like pushing out, might even be like hard. It's not like the big soft belly, the stress belly. It is literally a protruding belly. That's liver, and these are the folks that, ideally, you're not going to have that cocktail every night. You're not going to have that wine anymore. Again, cruciferous vegetables, fantastic for you. We're going to start to clean out the liver. The cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, those are great cleansers. They're actually insoluble fibers that really just clean things out. They clean things out. So moving the diet into that area. So listen, these are ways, like, it's staring you in the mirror. If you got that pot belly, clinically, I tell you, you got fatty liver disease. That part of the liver doing that, and you can fix that as long as you tend to it.
And that's not just alcohol. Eating a really sugary diet and things like that also contributes to fatty liver disease, right? Like, we think alcohol as soon as we think liver, but there's dietary things that cause fatty liver disease too. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So just because you might be a person that says, well, I don't drink, you can't be fatty liver disease. No, this is anything that, like sugar, or Karen, it could just be toxins. It could just be processed foods. Yeah. So you be eating like chicken every night, but it's processed chicken with, all kinds of chemicals in it, et cetera, followed up by like, a baked potato that's 100% GMO with more chemicals, followed with some sprayed broccoli. Like, we have to get a little smarter, because if we have that protruding gut, and it's like, it's typically like puts pressure on it. Sometimes it's even hard. If that's you, that's a toxic liver situation.
Yeah. And so it's really anything that's putting pressure on the liver. Any kind of toxins that
could be your polish.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay, what about if you're putting on weight all over? So you've kind of, got, a bit more of an even distribution, but you're just like putting on a lot of weight.
Okay. If you're really just gaining weight in all your body parts, typically that's thyroid. Now, thyroid's an interesting one, because sometimes it's a standalone, but most of the time it's thyroid and it goes like this: thyroid and adrenals, thyroid and gut, or thyroid and liver. Okay. But typically, if you just seen your whole body's gaining weight, that is typically the weight that will happen when you have a hypothyroid situation. Now, Karen, I'll tell you, and you probably know, you've been around a lot of practitioners. The biggest challenge I see out there with thyroid testing is they are not complete with the testing.
Yeah.
Listeners and understanding here, because I know a lot of our listeners are here on Facebook, or here on Zoom, or on Facebook, are on thyroid medications because they went to the doctor, they got something tested called a TSH, a thyroid stimulating hormone, and maybe T4 and T3. But by itself, it doesn't tell us enough if the thyroid is primary or it's secondary. And I'll explain that, because listen, if you're going to get tested, get all those tested, but there's a couple others that are absolutely a must if you ever want to get to the root issue and fix the thyroid and fix the other things going on. So there's something, I was just having this conversation with my clients today. When I run a thyroid panel, of course I run free T4. So we want to know how much T4, that's your thyroid hormone. T3, free T3, that's the one that's going to determine how well you feel. If we have a good level of free T3, you feel good. That right there, if either one of those are low, the challenge from T4 to T3, that happens all in the liver. So if we just get hypothyroid and say you're low in T3, but it's a liver conversion issue and you don't fix the liver, when you start pumping the thyroid medication in, you're going to pump it in. You're going to have to keep raising the levels, and it might not do anything. You'll be like, no, it doesn't work for me. So that conversion, that's why we have to know at least those markers. There's another one I run. So I said there could be a thyroid adrenal thing here. There is a marker on a thyroid panel. You have to ask for it. Again, it's part of our standard panel, because we want to know if this is driven by stress. There's something called reverse T3. This is interesting. So I only knew about this a couple of years ago. What happens is reverse T3 will measure. If that shows up high, that means that your stress is stealing your thyroid hormones. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. It's using T3 to feed the system, the stress system. So your issue isn't a lack of T3. It's because you got too much stress going on in your body. Therefore, we have to support the adrenals, so the thyroid hormones don't have to supply the adrenals with the more hormones. I think in another show, we talked about how oftentimes with hormones, if you're running out of your fight or flight hormones, cortisol, your body will steal your sex hormones to make them. And that's very similar to reverse T3. So if you're just pumping T3 or, thyroxine or Armor or any of those, even the ones that are considered natural. But if you don't understand whether or not you have a stress component to it, then it's never going to be fixed for you. You're never going to balance out your body. So that's another marker that we have. And then absolutely positively, especially if you're a female, if you have a thyroid diagnosis of hypothyroidism, you absolutely must get your antibodies checked to determine whether or not you have Hashimoto's. Over 50% of the women that are diagnosed with hypothyroidism have Hashimoto's. So you must have those antibodies tested. Otherwise, you're just going to keep running the route and driving yourself into autoimmune conditions. So I know we started this by talking about when we have thyroid dysfunction, because quite frankly, a lot of people think, oh, I gained weight, I'm going to run off to the doctor. Doctor, you're low thyroid. First, we got to know why, and then also observe where that weight is. If you go in there and your thyroid is low because you did a minimal test, but the weight is around your belly, that's a stress issue. And that's where we can use these clinical observations with modern medicine and labs, put them together, and we can really strategize in such a way that we can just level up our efforts and our results, and getting us closer, to superhuman.
I love that, because we need to use both. Let's use everything to be able to put the puzzle pieces together. So if people want to get these tests, let's just really quickly, because you work with people all over the country, you can ship them out everywhere. Tell us a little bit about what we can do to get these tests no matter where you are in the country.
Yeah, so real simple. Just somewhere in a link, put just a contact. We come out no matter where you are, and we will find you a lab close to you that you can, go get your labs. Usually it's just a real simple blood draw. And folks, they're not as expensive as people think. And that's the big thing, where to have the data, whether you check it once or twice a year, or even more frequent if you have the data, it takes all the guessing game, not all the guessing game, but it really helps us just kind of move forward. So I'll be happy. And then what we do is, once we send you that data, then we get it, and then we get on a Zoom just like this. In the past, Karen, I used to have everyone just send me their lab work, and I'd go, I can take a shotgun approach and be like, yeah, you got a thyroid issue. Could be thyroid and gut, could be thyroid adrenal, could be thyroid liver, and take the shotgun approach and do it all. But sometimes we can be like, man, you got a thyroid adrenal issue, let's go get it.
Yeah, which saves you time and gets you feeling better faster, right? Let's use as much data as we can to actually get you feeling better faster.
Absolutely. That is the name of the game. So the name of the game is like, how fast can we level up? What can we do? And of course, some things, healing takes time. Strategies are pinpointed, and we make it very customized for people. That's when we just think like, man, all right, it wasn't that far out of reach to just feel human again, to feel good again, or maybe you lose a couple pounds. Back to the thyroid weight thing. Another clinical one that shows up a lot, and again, this is just, you'll see some people that have an abnormal amount of weight stored or fat built up behind the tricep. Literally, like at the arm, it's almost like it's backed up. That's classic with hypothyroidism as well.
Okay.
So that, and it just doesn't seem right relative to the rest of their body. That's another classic sign right there.
Okay. And then we've got Ashley writes in and says, what about lower back fat?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to put, if she's talking about lower back, so I'm going to put another category in here. I'm going to put really low abdomen, like almost below your hip points. So like the lowest part of your stomach, your thighs, and your butt, like just almost like really down, almost like pear-shaped. Okay. That really is a hormone imbalance with the ovaries. And typically that's an indication that there's been a massive imbalance in estrogen. So in that scenario, the estrogen imbalance like that when we have that's again, we want cruciferous vegetables. So if you haven't got this yet, eat cruciferous. Those are just like good for everything.
Just eat them every day.
eat them every day. Just rotate them. Don't eat them raw. Make sure you're like steaming them, cooking them, grilling them, something like that. But those cruciferous vegetables are fantastic. And again, clearing out the liver and the gallbladder. That is their that's the biggest win. And they're clearing out excess hormones. So over the years, I can't tell you how many hundreds, literally, of thyroids we've cleaned up by cleaning out the ability for the liver to process the thyroid hormone, T4 into T3. That cleans out, you convert well, your TSH just starts to go back down because you got plenty of T3 floating around. So again, so the lower back, my guess, that's actually not what she's talking about. My guess is she's talking right around that bra strap.
And what? Well, you can let us know if you want to, Ashley, if you jump in there. But what is that one then? If that's what we're talking about.
We then want to move that back into a little bit of that thyroid dysfunction. Okay. But in that we want to really, again, it's just why it's so important with thyroid. This is where the two worlds meet together. We want to know if you've got a thyroid issue, what is the issue? Is it a conversion issue? Is it getting from T4 to T3? Do we just have a thyroid that's not functioning good? Do we need more selenium? Do we need more iodine to feed the actual thyroid? Do we have enough vitamin D in the body? Is this an autoimmune condition? Is this a stress issue? So if we have that data, that really helps us narrow down which direction that we're going into.
Yeah, it was the second you nailed it, below the bra strap. So yeah. So
I want to think hormonal imbalance, most likely a combination. There's a third thing in here as well. So yeah, there's a third thing. There's some water retention going on in there. Okay. So in the event, if that individual, we're going way off track here. I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah. Do it.
A little bit. I'm just going to call it back fat. Okay, that's what we call it. Like
back fat.
Around the room, and someone's like, "Get this back fat. How do I get rid of this?" Talk about the back fat. So think hormones out of balance, but I also want you to think there's water retention taking place here. And I want you to think about the kidneys. Usually, if I see the back fat, I'm looking at the eyes real quick. And I want to see if we're getting bags or dark spots. And these are some of the things I think we're going to talk about later anyways.
Yeah. Dark spots or circles?
Like bags underneath the eyes.
Yeah, okay.
Bags first, then we'll talk about dark. There's two different. Okay. If you got fat and you got baggy eyes, you got a stress situation going on with your hormones, okay? Those bags underneath the eyes, real common. We know that, man, you don't sleep well, you get bags underneath your eyes. Yeah. That's because the corticosteroids coming out of the adrenal glands, they all go right to, they signal in your kidneys. Now your kidneys are a little bit off with their ability to filter and flush. And now we have a backup of fluid, and that edema ends up in the pockets of our eyes. So back fat, baggy eyes, think thyroid hormone, but also adrenal, go sleep off some weight. I know that sounds crazy. You're shaking your head like, yeah, I got to be a better rested person, because that's ultimately what has to happen. And usually there's a combination of stress and poor sleep that are going with both of those.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now that we're talking about baggy eyes, let's keep going. Circles are different?
Yeah, a little bit different. So yeah, and some of these just pay attention. All right. So the baggy eyes, and then we're thinking immediately water retention. Think poor sleep, adrenals are getting pushed. But also in the back of your mind, you're thinking, if I retain water, this is really a kidney issue, which is downstream from the liver. So we got toxins coming in, right? So for example, you go out for Chinese food, you eat a whole bunch of things, and there's always MSG in the soy sauce. Your liver can't process that. So it doesn't know what to do with it. Slows down kidney function. We end up getting edema in the body, water retention, because the body simply does not know what to do with those toxins. So one of the pockets it can fill up in here. So if you get stress and you get a crappy diet, so we're getting again, all of that stuff. Listen, the only diet a human should be eating is if it's 100% organic, period. Yeah. No kind of sort of, I had an organic last week. No, it always should have no chemicals in it when it comes into the human body. So in the event you get bags, think water retention, but it's caused by lack of sleep, caused by adrenals getting overworked a little bit. Now, with that being said, and I have a secret weapon for these. It works amazing. If you get the dark spots, the dark rings, I want you to pay attention a little bit more. If you're starting to get dark underneath your eyes consistently, two things. One, this probably been going on for a while, and the kidneys are really starting to struggle. So that's one of the ones. The second is that you probably have some level of parasite going on.
Huh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so the thing that we use for, and listen, this could go for water retention anywhere in the body. I use a product called AC Carbamide. It is awesome. Safe, 100% gentle. It's real easy to use. And literally you'll get rid of water retention in a couple of days, like almost overnight, quite frankly.
Wow. Okay.
It doesn't fix the problem, but it helps the problem go away, because if you continue to build up that water, that's an electrolyte imbalance and it's throwing your body off. So when your eyes are really baggy and you got retention, you got retention in your wrists, or you got retention in your ankles, you're not at your best. So if you can reduce some of that and start to create the electrolyte balance, the fluid on the inside and the outside of the cell, then you can move into getting yourself healthier again.
Okay. Sounds good. And I mean, if we think we've got some of these things, we can test parasites and all that kind of things as well, right? We can do gut tests, and really we can get in touch. You got any of these symptoms? It's really looking at, like, we really need someone to pull it together, and they can talk to you about these things and see which kind of test would be best, right?
Yeah, and a lot of these, you're absolutely right. It's if you want to test it, but there's a lot of strategies, like, even if let's say you don't want to do any testing, you could just pay attention to these and be like, okay, if I think and then here we go back to cruciferous vegetables. If you got a kidney, you're beating up your liver too much. So the kidney is literally downstream. So if you've got issues with the kidney, think, why my kidney's getting beat up? It is supposed to just filter water and clean it out and get it out, which means there's too much junk coming in the front end of it. So we clean up the diet, we get back to whole food living, we use the cruciferous vegetables, we start to clear the body. If you think that you have parasites, you have other indications, random ones, bumps on the back of the arm. They almost seem like little, almost like little pimples. Bumps in the back of the arms. Check your kids for these. You'll see them come and go. Typically, it's another sign clinically of parasites. Karen, honestly, I don't really do a lot of parasite testing. I think that everyone has them until proven otherwise. And some parasites can live symbiotically with us, and some cannot. If you got animals, most likely you expose them. If you travel over to Mexico, you travel to some other countries, you're changing up your water supplies, most likely you're picking up a parasite. Most of your microbiome, most of your gut, your gut flora, most of your stomach acids will manage most of them. Yet I personally, my wife and I, we do a 30-day, and it's real simple. I use 2 different herbs to cleanse out every year, at least for 1 month. Because there's too much stuff going on. We're always exposed to parasites, way more than you. But if you got bumps on the back of the arm, you got dark eyes going on. All right, I'm going to say this, but this is just a weird topic. But you got itchy anus at night. Yeah. Sign of parasites. Parasites are nocturnal. They literally like to come out. So your kids will say they'll say my hiney itches, whatever, at night. They probably got pinworms. They got roundworms.
Yeah. That's
real
cool.
Real simple. I'll tell people I use wormwood, and I use there's a kill and clean. It is something, though. I prefer someone, if instead of me just giving you those supplements, I prefer they reach out to us, so they do it in a strategic way that's also safe, because you got to understand the die off.
Okay.
Die off, and you can get a little symptomatic from the die off. So you want something in there that's cleaning out that debris, because it's going to change your pH a little bit. So we want to get that. Now you can get a little nauseous from that die off. No big deal. We got to work right through that, because that means it's good. And then you got to come back after 10 days of thinking that they're all dead. You got to let all the eggs hatch, come back and do it again for another 10 days. So there's a very specific strategy when it comes to parasites. But I'll tell you, it's easy. For the most part, they're easy.
Okay. Well, we got another question about weight really quickly before we move on to the next one. What about rapid losing of weight? Like, we've talked about all these gains weights in this thing. If you're losing weight?
If you're losing weight, again, I'd probably need a little bit more data, a little more history. Usually something shocks the body. And at that point, typically, well, listen, you can be doing it healthy, but I'm assuming that question's getting asked because you haven't changed anything. You're just losing weight. At the end of the day, we want to be able to make sure that we can absorb and build good protein. Okay, that's the healthiest thing for us, build muscle mass. And something usually happens. You go on one round of antibiotics, something weird happens, you get exposed to a chemical, and now you have a hard time absorbing amino acids.
Okay.
And then you break that chain, and now you can't build muscle mass. And there are very specific strategies, but that one, whoever's asking that question, that's definitely get with your doctor, get with me, get with someone that'll understand it. We got to dive into that history a little bit, see how it happened. If because you just keep on living healthy, and now all of a sudden for 6 months, you've been eating organic, clean food for the first time in your life, and you're losing weight, if you are strong and you have vitality, you have a clear mind, strong body, you let it keep coming off your body. Like there's no such thing as I'm getting too thin. If you're functioning fine, that's our benchmark. But if it's not that, get with a practitioner because that can tell us something funky monkey's going on.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, Lisa here is asking us what we were going to talk about next anyway, because she's interested in what was the thinner last 3/4 of the eyebrows, like if people start to lose the last sections of their eyebrows.
Yeah. Another just great for us as clinicians, just when, a patient's sitting in front of us or sitting on Zoom, again, we have that visual observation and almost a classic sign, that outer third, like this last part down here, usually it'll happen bilateral. You start to lose both of that. So it's a hypothyroid condition. Yeah. So so hair, skin, nails all have a connection back to your thyroid, and it has a lot to do with the metabolic body. It has, the thyroid hormone is supposed to help cleanse the body. So, but when we see that, again, we want to go back to the root here. We have to recognize what's going on with the thyroid. It doesn't just mean you need thyroid hormones. It might be a liver issue because you can't convert them. You might have too much stress going on. Another thing with the eyebrows. So the outer third typically means hypothyroidism. There's another part we could be losing the outer third, but all of the eyebrow is starting to get really thin. That's a vitality thing. That is typically caused by a prolonged period of stress. So in traditional Chinese medicine, we use that observation a lot to see like how much influence we want to have on building qi. And, we use very specific herbs to help build qi, echinacea, rhodiola, ginseng. Those are the powerful ones, especially like Korean ginseng. If you can tolerate like a liquid source, that is one of the best stamina builders. So when I see that thinning eyebrow, man or woman, doesn't matter. I want to, like, my preference would be you're on Korean ginseng, you're on rhodiola. That's where the stamina comes from.
Okay. I love this. I love how much our body is trying to tell us, right? It's like trying to tell you. It's like, hey, I'm giving you hints. You can just listen. We can get you feeling really good. Okay, what about another one is lips cracking on the side. So this is where it won't go away, right? Like it keeps cracking and it's not like you just need a bit of lip moisturizer or anything. It's
yeah. I'm talking about those deep cracks. And if you've had one before, you know what I'm talking about. Like, everything seems pretty good. You're just getting this deep crevice and like put a little balm in there and it's just not going away. Very specifically, Karen, that's almost always that is a B2 deficiency.
Okay.
Often, again, remember, we use our B vitamins under stress. So we stress the system out. You can stress the system out emotionally, physically, but also chemically. And that's where the family doctor and the patient doctor communication is so important, that there's an honest and open conversation about everything that's going on in life, because that's a deficiencies that's happening, so oftentimes it's beyond just the dietary issues. So there could be a gut issue here. We could have just prolonged stress every night, but B2. So again, that one I mentioned earlier, Cataplex B. Yeah. Covers all of these. It's a whole food source. There's many things in there, but my favorite part of that product is that it comes from liver, and liver is the highest and greatest source of B vitamins, period. So if you have that, you go pretty high dose in the beginning. Because you're deficient. You can't just give normal when you're deficient. If it's whole food, I usually have you go a little bit above. So you have excess as you're watering it all out. You're getting it out of your body. Now, B vitamins are water soluble, means that easy come, easy go. Like you're literally going to peel a lot of them out. So you got to put enough in there so you can start to establish enough to rebuild in there. So those cracks, those deep crevice cracks, those are a B2 deficiency.
Okay. What about dry and cracking heels? So we got the cracking lips, but what about dry and cracking heels? What's that trying to tell us?
Yeah, a little bit different.
Not tell anything, but hey.
Yeah. So where we'll see this the most is we'll see it often in post-pregnancy or even during pregnancy.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's kind of interesting. So the quick answer is this: it's a lack of essential fatty acids. Very similar to what we had with the nails earlier when they were brittle and you can't bend them, that they break and crack. We don't have enough essential fatty acids. That's your fish oils. They're not absorbed into your body. Now remember, your feet are the farthest away from your heart. So whatever's farthest away gets the least. And the way that the bottom of our foot is, the sole, really all layers of dermis, we have the skin, and then we have essential fatty acids, and then we have fascia, and then we have skin, essential fatty acids, and skin. Now, what'll happen is we press down on our feet all the time. We need each layer to play its role. If you don't have that layer of essential fatty acids constantly supplying the dermis, constantly supplying that tissue to regenerate and create some nutrients in the tissue, it becomes less pliable. Then it will crack, it will dry up and break. So literally think about the essential fatty acids are literally, they're almost like oiling the heel. We'll see that in the pregnancy because often the mom is giving up a lot of their nutrients and they're heavier. So now there's an increased demand here, but very, very fixable. It takes a little bit of time, meaning that I would give that process a minimum of 3 months, but up to a year of kind of reconditioning the body. By the time it got there, it means a lot has taken place and probably don't have enough good essential fatty acids in the body. That's the same thing you get every time that you eat salmon. Awesome. So, our good fats like butter and eggs, all those guys are going to help as well. But still my favorite, old school cod liver. And I say that because it's got natural source of vitamin A and vitamin D. And they're capsules. I usually tell people to bite them. You want to get about 4 capsules a day.
Yep. Yeah. Can't believe you bite them, but good that you do. All right. What about a bright red nose face?
Okay. So I want you to imagine for a second you're at the grocery store and you or maybe someone in your family and you notice there's like puffy red cheeks, puffy red nose, puffy red face. Typically this is a classic heart condition. This is a cardiovascular issue. We'll see it a lot with people who drink a lot and are a little bit overweight. But it's not something to shy away from. They don't look healthy and they're not. Yeah. So if that's you or a family member, pay attention. You run a cardio, if you want proof to it, take your blood pressure. You have high blood pressure. It's not an if, you do. If you have a red nose and you have red cheeks, you have high blood pressure. So it's important that we do that right away. And if you say, no, I don't, because I'm taking high blood pressure medication, that doesn't count.
No.
These are the symptoms that our body's trying to tell us, man, something's off here. This is a circulatory issue. The capillaries are getting weaker and weaker. We don't have enough vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in those capillaries to supply different parts of our body. And it shows up very visual on the face. We all know someone who we love and adore, and you see me and man, they just don't look good, and you know it. So and if you need the proof there, go get a test. Go get your cardiometabolic test done. That'll test all your cholesterols. It'll test all your enzymes, and you will have an eye opener, because if you've got that going on, you got a cardiovascular issue, and that's not one to shy away from. I'm going to add one more to that. And again, I don't say any of this to scare anyone, but if it needs a wake-up call, so be it, right? Like this is.
It's better that this be the wake-up call than something more serious, right?
Yeah.
This is the pre-wake-up call for you guys. Yeah.
I'm going to add one thing to this, and it's in that world as well. And it's like, sometimes it's like we don't talk about heart disease enough, and like the things that are so obvious for us to change. But heck, heart disease, in our country, Karen, 600,000 people a year die from it. And we can see it. There's another clear symptom about heart disease. And I don't know why this is, and I don't have an explanation via, my physiology. But if you look at the lobe, the earlobe, and there's that big crease, that big vertical crease, cutting that lobe in half, that's cardiovascular issue. That is a classic sign that there's cardiovascular issue there, and you got to go like shake it up and get yourself on a good path.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that one. Okay, we got some more questions emailed in as well. Let's tackle some of those. Oh, hi.
This is Paris. Everyone is probably familiar with Paris, but Paris is hi. That is her George right over there.
Hi, George. I have to bring. I feel like I need to bring my dog to the show. I should more often. Anyway, so if you guys also do each week, people do email in questions. So if you want to email us in questions, please do. Okay. So the first one is, during the 1950s era, many babies and young children were radiated for enlarged thymus glands. I was one of these babies and now I'm in my mid-60s. What lingering effect or influence would this procedure have on an adult that had this done as a baby? Is there anything to watch out for or any lifestyle changes that should be made to avert any unforeseen problems? For example, can this cause cancer in the future or any other problems associated with immunology or something else?
Okay, great question. Great question. If that's you, and maybe this will be kind of a broad for anyone that just had some random procedures done, especially the thymus gland. Most people don't know what it is or where it is. Thymus gland is a very important gland. It's part of where you make the majority of your white blood cells. So in the event that it was radiated early in your life, you'd probably just want to make sure that your white blood cells, and you can just, check them in your annual labs. It's any doctor runs any lab, they're going to check your white blood cells. So that's something that you'd want to run and probably stay on top of your game, meaning that you're always doing something for immune support. In our clinic, and I've seen people with that before, I've seen people tell me that we use a very specific thymus support, supplement for people that have had their thymus gland beat up. So it is something that we want to pay attention to. The second part of that, if it's been radiated. So listen, if you have radiation, here we go. We're going back to cruciferous vegetables. That radiation, your body knows what to do with it and how to do with it. So it sends it to the liver. That's the chemicals that come into your body. That's where it's going to send up the dead tissue that your body doesn't know what to do with, ends up in the liver. So again, we're going to clean the liver. Some clean living. Make sure you stay on top of your game when it comes to your immune system and your white blood cells, and you'll be solid.
And then, sorry, earlier you said with the cruciferous vegetables, you want to have them cooked, right? So why don't we want to eat them raw?
Yeah, raw is very difficult to break down. There are a lot of those. A couple of weeks back, we had a gentleman on here, Dr. somebody, who talked about how plants and animals have a protection mechanism as well. But raw vegetables are very, very difficult for us to break down. Most of us, our guts aren't strong enough to do that. So especially the insoluble fibers, like a lot of that fiber is not being broken down. It's moving right through our body like a rake. So with those cruciferous vegetables, steam them, cook them, soften them up a little bit. You won't lose much of the nutrients, and a big value of them is that they do work like a rake. They're literally going to pull things through there.
Okay, cool. All right, the next question was from Diana, and she said, first of all, love your show. I listen every Tuesday night. So thank you, Diana, for listening to us. We love that. So my question is, all of us are being strongly encouraged to take the flu vaccine this winter because of COVID. I never take the vaccine. I just don't like the thought of injecting myself with something made in a lab unless I have to. However, in December, I'll be 61 years young. I am more concerned about health now than ever before. I hardly ever get sick and feel as strong as ever. What do you think about the flu vaccine? A lot of people I know that are at my age say it's a no-brainer to get it.
Great question, Diana. Thanks for asking it. It's often
That's a great question.
Yeah, I often duck it, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys tonight and tell you kind of how I feel about it. First of all, Diana, thank you for watching the show and always being a great supporter. I appreciate that. So listen, the flu vaccine doesn't necessarily protect you 100% from the flu. It's a crap shot, meaning that they're going to do their best every year to try to mimic what was last year. And it's about a 50-50. It is 100% guaranteed that you are putting something foreign into your body, guaranteed. Now, when it comes relative to other people, I never like the comparison game, and I never like to take an action based on fear. If you can wholeheartedly say, I'm going to take this flu vaccine so I'm healthier, awesome, good decision. If you take that flu vaccine because you are afraid of getting the flu, not a great decision. You won't feel good about it energetically, not entering your body, not having it in your body. If you're 61 years old and you rarely get sick right now and you've never had the flu vaccine, personally, I don't think it's a time for you to start, because you're a human and you're doing all the things for humans to stay healthy. So that's what I'll encourage you to do. Do what you do best. We start doing things that we're not comfortable with energetically. And Karen, this is such an important part. We've feared ourselves into it. What does COVID have to do with last year's flu? Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same strand. If they're saying, well, what if you get the flu and then COVID? You probably don't want both at the same time, but you haven't. So if you haven't had many flus in the past, I've had the flu twice in my life. And I'll be honest, both times I felt like dying. It was awful, but I didn't die. I have no intentions personally. And again, for everyone listening, I'm not acting as your doctor. I'm not telling you to get it or not, but make a decision that it's based on you leveling up versus you going into defense mode and you going into fear mode. More questions should and will be asked this year about the vaccine. So maybe one of these shows, I'll catch up to some great information that I've learned just recently about what the future looks like these next 9 months. And when we'll have a lot more information, because people are going to ask questions. How do we know it's safe? What is it doing to my body? So in a weird way, it's going to be good. And listen, if you take one, awesome. But anything you put into your body, never put something into your body that you already have concern of. Like if you have to take a medication, you got some ailment, something, take it with and bless it. Thank you for, serving me today. But if you got something, you're like, oh man, I wish I put this into my body, and you're thinking about it. No way.
Yeah, no, great answer. So I hope that helped, guys. Okay, another one we got. We're almost out of time, but just quickly, another one we got. My question is about the exercises that you call hormone stimulus. I think you call it hormone activator. Do you? Yes, but same exercise. So this person's been in our 30-day challenge, and so that's where the context comes from, this particular exercise. But this is something you do in your morning routine. And anyway, this person asks, you didn't explain how or why it works to stimulate hormones. Can you tell us a little bit about what this is and how it works to stimulate hormones?
Yeah, I'd love to. For those of you who don't have any idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I assign this little exercise, part of what I do in my daily ritual. I don't do it with any weights. It's 4 different movements. You use 4 major muscle parts, your shoulders, 2 different angles of those, 3 different angles of those, and then squatting. And they're repetition after repetition, just literally like air, like you're just doing things, moving your body. You use these major muscle groups that command and demand a lot of oxygen. The repetition of those, Karen, ends up creates a depletion of oxygen in the cell. Then what happens is, so the cell's working real hard because you're keeping it moving. It's the same science behind high intensity interval training. The more you're moving and grooving, it's high intensity. You don't even need any weight. So we're not beating up the tissues at all. So no muscle breakdown. But the beauty is, as we do that, the major muscle groups need more. And on the inside of the cell that's running out of oxygen, your muscle releases, the cell releases something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is like a turbo boost of saying, hey guys, come this way, follow me. It brings in more oxygen, which then activates your ability it activates your growth hormone and your testosterone. So it's almost like we starve out the cell, we produce nitric oxide, and that nitric oxide, as you keep burning through it, then you actually are getting your hormone activation of growth hormone, number 1 fat burner in the human body, number 1 anti-ager in the human body, testosterone, great for the brain function, great for your immune system, great for building muscle, great for metabolism. Those 2 are activated in that moment, which is beautiful.
And these are exercises anybody can do, right?
But it can do, yeah.
Anybody can do them. And if you guys missed out on our 30-day challenge, make sure that you are on our email list so that you can hear about anything we've got coming up. So if you go to healthmadesimpleshow.com and register for any of our shows, you get on our email list, and then we always send you out what we've got going on, what we've got coming up, because the people, we got some amazing results in our last 30-day challenge that we just finished up, and all the participants were amazing. It was super fun. So make sure that you're on our email list so that you're getting all our updates. So Dr. Bart, I think we should move into our last question. I'm not sure with all this stuff we talked about what you're gonna say. I don't know, but since we're making health simple, what is one action item people can take today to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman?
All right, since last week I said sleep, right?
Yeah, you did. So hopefully we've all been sleeping this week. Yeah. And this week?
So this week is really going to be become more intuitive.
Yeah.
Listen. Become more intuitive. When I was, thinking about this topic this week, that intuition, like we're giving up such personal power by no longer listening. So I'm going to encourage everyone to listen tonight. Trust, not the brain that thinks, but trust that inner voice. They're two different. Your brain will always give you negativity and doubt. The voice behind it, that first message you hear, start trusting that intuition.
Love it. Perfect. Such a good message for all of us. Well, thank you again. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Awesome show. We'll be back same time next week to make health simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you guys, thanks for being here. Everyone on Facebook, thanks for joining in. Keep doing your thing. Keep sharing it out. Keep spreading the love. And then, as usual, we can take deliberate action for your mind, for your body, for your overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.